Coffee aita, Deepa?
Tea, Sunday tea.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. As we continue our conversations with interesting people from various spheres of life, but we all connect on one platform, that is passion for running. And today we have a very, very interesting, actually two interesting people, Manoj Bhat, who's on whom we'll primarily focus on, and then we have Deepa Bhat also, who will pitch in and ask a lot of questions to Manoj that you've always been wanting to hear. Manoj Bhat. I personally known Manoj, but since 2012, we bumped into a race. That was my first half marathon. And since then, I've been following his, running graph, and which has been really phenomenal because of the kind of variety that he's had. Manoj Bhat has been running since 2005. He's a graduate from IIM Lucknow, currently AVP in Wipro. What amazes me with all of us is his variety to running. He's someone who's run like a 39 minutes 10K to of 19 minutes 5K and also a 202 kilometers in 24 hours. And he's just 40, a father of two wonderful kids. And most importantly, an amazing human being who spreads a lot of positivity, shares his knowledge. So I think this is going to be a really, really interesting interview with the kind of information that he's going to share. Welcome, Manoj Bhat. Pleasure to have you here. Hi, Deepa.
Hey, Shreyas. Hi, Manoj. Good evening.
Hey, hi, Deepa.
Yeah. So, Manoj, so tell me about your first run, Manoj. Your first 5K and your last your latest run that you did, the 100K solo, and in between you also qualified, for the 24-hour World Championship in 2018. How did you start the 5K and how's it been now? Can you just quickly sum it up?
Yeah, Shreyas. First of all, Shreyas, thank you so much for that generous introduction. I still don't believe that, I've done anything special. And, there's a lot that all of us have in us, that takes us much beyond, what you see out there. But thanks so much. Very kind words coming from you. It really means a lot. That said, it's a interesting journey. So I started in 2000. I started in 2005, and I like to speak. I like to share my stories with a lot of runners, and some of them would have already heard a few of these. So how I started running, I get asked this all the time, isn't it? I mean, as runners, especially when you start. So it started out in I used to work out in the gym, and in BL, near BL, close to where I stay, there is a huge ground that is there in BL, and the BL gym used to have this a coach who would insist that you sweat when you come into the gym. He used to be a national coach for para Olympic athletes. I mean, he was a guy with some substance, but he would say, if you don't sweat, you're not in. So we had to do a lap around that. It must have been, thinking now, it must have been about 600, 800 meters, nothing more than that. But that became routine for me. You do that lap, get into the gym. I went to Lucknow in 2003 to do my post-graduation management, and there we had a great campus, 2.5 kilometer loop, and then the loop just became 2.5 kilometers. That's about it. I mean, it was one loop, but it was 2.5. You didn't know the maths then. You just did it because you got to go. When I got out of campus, just as with a month to go or so, everything placement is done. You're like on the top of the world. So a friend and I, we decided we'll do 10 laps around that without even knowing what marathon, half marathon, and all that was. First, one weekend I did 5 laps, and then I felt all right. So I picked up the bike and did 5 more. And nice. This is this good. Next weekend we followed that with 10 loops, and the 10 loops, 10th we took off the shirt and all that and ran like madmen, like we had achieved something that no one else had. Little did we know that people do this as a part of training, and in 15 years you probably wouldn't think too much of it yourself. But the first 5K is interesting. It was in the campus, and that was probably one of the bigger failures that I had. I was touted as I was the guy who was supposed to win that 5K race. It was 2 laps around campus. I started out, if there was a prize that was given for the biggest distance between the lead pack and the lead guy, I would have got it. But then, of course, the first lap you burned out. they caught up with you. Sad story, I finished 5th or 6th and stop of the. But that was how it started off. I got back to Bangalore 2005. The Bangalore Marathon was happening, and then 21 and 42 kilometers. 21 you've already done. You've done 25, right? So what's next? 42. Yeah, sign up for 42 without even knowing what you're signing up for. And I remember that race so well. It would go all the way to Hebal. From Hebal, you take a right turn and then go all the way to Banaswadi, take a U-turn and come back, all on the ring road, etc. And make a circle was not a flyover, was not an underpass, it was a circle, a whole lot of changes. I mean, it's not, you won't see it like the way it is today. But nevertheless, so all of that, it struggled and suffered, crawled and finished in 6 hours. First marathon. 6 hours and 5 minutes. I still have the certificate. It was handwritten. You didn't have a timing chip. You had to tell them, let them know that that's what you did. Yeah, back in those days. Yeah, from there on, I think in 2006 I bumped into this group called Runners for Life. A bunch of madmen that I thought, why would anyone come all the way from Indranagar to Kabul Park to run 10 kilometers, right? Indranagar to Kabul Park. Yeah, little did I know in 4 years' time I would kilometer, all the way to Leh. So that is how I got into running, and slowly, I used to be a motorcycle. I used to be a biker. Moved from motorcycling to running, and that's how the journey started.
So just before Deepa steps in, how different is a motorcycle high and how different is a running high? Because even motorcyclists thrive on that, adrenaline, and even runners thrive on that. Even runners also thrive on that adrenaline. How different is it? Manoj, are you there? Yeah, I think we just lost Manoj. Just be back.
Yes. So, Shreyas, I should tell you, I've known Manoj for a while now.
Yeah.
And it's been a very different journey every time I meet him. Okay. So the closest that I know was last year when I did my maiden 24 hours run. Yeah. Manoj had a very set target. Yeah. Okay. I think we have.
I think he's back. Yeah.
I think he's back, but he has unstable connection. Let's allow him to be stable a little more. Okay. And so, so you know how a stadium run is, right? You have the first 3 laps for these guys who are, chasing some targets, and people like me who are having fun on the run. The rest of the laps is all for, the rest of the tracks is all for us, right? And Manoj and me started chatting, as always. We were chatting, and through the entire evening, we were actually talking through. Okay. And he was chasing a very big target. And that's what I think we will talk once he's back and we have a
trying.
Yeah. Once he comes back, a very focused, very determined runner that we know him as.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, I think even last year in Bangalore Marathon, I was running along with him up to 22 kilometers. Just in October, and he was well on target. To go and do a sub 3:10. For someone who runs about 100 kilometers in 11 hours. Right. He's still kept his pace up. Manoj is the first few guys who also showed that father doesn't mean slower. You can always keep up the intensity. Right. And always keep also the distance going, because there's a time when we thought was ultra running was just all about clocking the distance irrespective of the time. Yeah.
You can walk to finish. You can you just have to finish, but keep on ground. But he's just turned the entire ultra scene into a speed race scene.
And especially the 100 kilometers. Yeah.
Exactly right. Exactly. So that's something that I have a question for him: is how does he balance between clocking those miles? Okay. Yeah. Clocking a 90-mile a week versus doing those interval trainings and pounding those, pause clocks that he has. What does his week look like? That's been one of the questions that I've had always. But Shreyas, honestly, I think running connects us so much beyond, and beyond all this, it connects us so much that, these questions suddenly, when you say, okay, I'm gonna have the, the honor or the pride to ask him these questions that I've always wanted to, it's fun, right?
Yeah, it is indeed.
Yeah.
So, for me, I always get intimidated, by the distance personally, even 42. I mean, I can't really imagine running beyond 42.2 kilometers. But
What's your
I mean, the
longest
fact that
race?
I've done a 75, but I failed miserably. I didn't feel good doing that 75. Then I thought I'd just stick to 42.2. So I don't even have any imagination or dreams going beyond the distance. But what is that in you, Deepa? Because you've also been running, especially the stadium runs, and we also run quite a bit across trails. What is so special about anything beyond 42.2 that motivates you, given despite the challenges these distances throw at you?
Honestly, I'm not a fan of road running. Okay.
Okay.
You give me the trails, you give me the Javadu hills, you give me, trail runnings. The recent one I did at Meghalaya, they're the ones that are close. So Shreyas, on there's no trail marking. So that I think there's no mind block saying that you have done 25, you have 15 to go. There is just no marking. There's just no marking.
Interesting. Okay.
I think
Okay.
that just, because you're so one with yourself, you feel your breath. I don't run with music. So, you just feel your breath, you feel the slush of the water, you feel the crunching of the soil below your shoes, and it's totally meditative, right? So I think that keeps me going all the time. And so distance is relative then. Distance becomes relative because you're so one with
What is working?
yourself that
What is working?
that you just start enjoying that. So for me, honestly, I think it's that feeling of being one with yourself, one with the air around, one with the yourself being there. And it's not about I'm clocking this within this time. What is my pace? I think one of the races that I didn't even know what time I completed. That was the 75K at Javadu, which I did. Till Peter said, you know what, you've been the first woman to finish the race. So till then, I never knew what was my time. Yes.
But
Great.
do
I
you
think,
usually,
yeah.
but do you usually chase timing in ultra running, or you just turn up to complete it? How is it mood of these ultra runners? Do they definitely have a time target? But majority of them, or you just turn up to finish and just enjoy the trail.
I think most of the ultra runners is to finish the race. Okay, you want to finish 100 miler, you want to finish within the cutoff time, and if there are intermediate cutoff times, that plays on your mind. Like the Khardungla 72 has 3 intermittent cutoffs, and it's pretty tough, especially till you get to the K top. Shreyas, which is 6 hours 33 kilometers, is quite a challenge. I think once you clear that, it's like a honeymoon. Abhi to, it's just another 42 to go. You have that cutoff in mind, of course. Okay. So I think yes, but then there are people who want to do a race course record, if I could say that. They want to set a course record, and they are chasing some timings as well. Yeah.
Okay. Also, tell me something, per se, now ultra running demands a lot of, I think we have Manoj back.
Yes, we do have Manoj back. We did miss you, Manoj.
Hey, sorry guys, I didn't go out for a run, but yeah.
All right. So yeah, Manoj. So we'll move on. I mean, since we just lost some time, Deepa, over to you.
Yes. I've wanted to ask you this question, Manoj. In ultra running, when I run big races, when I run really long distance races, okay, I go through different emotions during that journey. Okay, pain, joy, sadness sometimes, and pain, physical pain when I mean, okay, and I've also had hallucinations. Okay. In your 24-hour run that we had last year, I know you spoke about spirituality, feeling that spirituality. Okay. At what point in your race did you feel, and how long did you feel that?
Yeah, so that's interesting. I mean, I always heard about races having this whole out of the body experience. And I have, when I was in Taiwan, I spoke to Dan Lawson, and today he's just finished a 850 mile race. And he always talks about how he has this out of body experience. So I used to wonder if it would ever happen, is it even possible? But, I remember, and it happens quite frequently now, it comes and goes, just like Murakami talked about these clouds in a blue sky that will come and go. You never know when it will come and what will happen. But when it comes, there is this whole gripping sensation. It's almost hair rising. You kind of feel a sudden, surge of energy. You don't know what's going on, and you have this like a wave of gratitude and a positivity and all of that will just come and sweep you off. You just want that to go on for like forever, and if it's an amazing experience. It'll come and go and probably last for about 15-20 minutes. I kind of have this a little bit of a spiritual bent, basis, our upbringing, right? So in our culture, we pray to God, we go to temples, we believe in a ultimate faith and power that is there. To actually experience that, it is more of a gratitude. At one point, when I was doing my 24-hour run, after running through the night, 10 hours into the run, you have this whole sudden flow, right? Where it can just keep going on, and then suddenly you have this huge gratitude that when you're saying, "Oh my God, thank you for this life," right? Yeah. Just thank you for this life, everything that you have given me, and then there is, I cry, there is, tears just roll down quite uncontrollably. Just why did you choose me to do this, right? Is there a bigger purpose? Is there a message? And then I went, and then my wife was growing at that point for me, and she was reading a book or something in whatever little light that she could. And I went and just hugged her, and and then she was like, "What happened? What's wrong with you?"
So are you trying to say that we have to run a 24 runs to feel that spirituality now?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm already looking forward to that now.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Manoj, yeah.
So it's a very 15 minutes and then it moves on. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing that you touched upon, the spirituality and all that. But like Deepa said, and this is a little out of context again, but is that the only way that you think you can attain that zone? Is ultra running the only way? Or do you think there are other means or other distances where you can, get that state of, mind then? Or, yeah.
If you ask me, really, I think it is. It's got to be the ultra distance, to be honest.
Okay.
Why I say that, perhaps you could do it. There could be experience like that, a marathon. See, I'll tell you the spirituality, even in life, right? You need to be kneaded enough. If you do any baking, you will know that your bread will become really soft and nice, and if you knead it, right? So that kneading of the mind a little, that's the way I look at it, and that kneading will definitely happen when you're doing a long distance. I'm not sure about, maybe it will happen in a marathon, but maybe it will just happen for too short you to figure out that there you are having that out of body experience.
Interesting. Okay.
But in a longer race, and it could be anything. It could be a streak that you would take, right? Say, for example, you're doing a 15-kilometer race every day, 50-kilometer distance every day, 15 into say 30 days, right? On the 6th day or the 15th day or whatever that day is, you'll be like really sore. You don't know what, but you still push yourself out, and then you will go and 3-5 kilometers into the run, and you suddenly have this whole this whole uplifting feeling, isn't it? I mean, most of us runners feel that at some point. You'll go through a dip, and then you'll go through
Yeah.
a sudden high. Where does it come from? I think that's what alluding towards, towards what I'm talking about. It can happen in a shorter race. It can happen on a day you're really beaten and hammered, with maybe with other walks of life, right? You're complete bogged down. You go out for a run, and then suddenly, you have this great feeling, isn't it? Right? That's what I'm talking about. I mean, I think that is what I'm talking about.
Right.
So in that, we were just talking about highs and lows. I'm very sure that one of your highs was qualifying, for the country and representing India in Taiwan for the World Championship. Did you ever imagine that you would, represent India, at this point of your life, or was that a dream, or was it a goal, or it just happened? How did the whole thing happen?
Oh, wow. Yeah, Shreyas, that's a great question, and I can spend. I hope my internet is all right.
It's better.
I'm doing this over the phone, because I had some trouble with the other one. But if you could just switch to the other login, maybe we can give that a shot as well. But this is a fantastic question, Shreyas, and I can go on for a while on this. So I'll tell you how this started off. This started off when we were coming back. When I remember Sunil Chanani and I, Sunil was driving me, in his car. Back from Nandi Hills, and then he said, guess what, there's this whole AFI is really doing this thing now where they're sending they're sending a team to India, they're sending an Indian team to all international events and all of that. And do you know Kairan? He actually ran that. He was saying this. I remember, suddenly there was this goosebumps, that I got. I was like, oh my God, is it even possible to represent your country in an ultra marathon kind of a thing? And then this was in 2017. This was in 2017. I mean, like, yeah. So this was in 2017. And and the next, and who would have thought that the very next year I would be doing this myself. It was a dream come true. I just couldn't believe that was happening. In fact, I went into that what is now my qualifying race, Bangalore, my first 24-hour run, having absolutely no inclination of doing anything spectacular. All the biggies were there. At the start line, I was looking at who all are around me. There was Sunil Sharma, there was Vivek Adu. Vivek Adu was then the national record holder with 196 kilometers. Sunil Sharma, a whole lot of them, even Arun Bharadwaj, a whole lot of stars on that one. I was like, oh my God, right? But it just so happened, and my target was 160 kilometers in 24 hours for that race. I went on to do 189. After 16 hours or so, there was someone like Deepa, who's probably, I don't know if she was there, but there was someone who asked me on the track, what's your target? I had done 150 in 16 hours. And then I looked up and said, 160. And, she started laughing. Are you kidding me? You have another 8 hours to go. And why do you want to do like 10 kilometers or 12 kilometers, right? So that was how that event went. And, one of the best that I've ever done, in terms of in terms of happiness. And lo and behold, I was on the Indian team, and being on the Indian team, Shreyas, is a completely different experience. When that there was a flag ceremony, the day before the event. You get a chance to walk with the national flag onto the stage, plant the flag there. Oh my God! I mean, even as I'm talking about it, it's just sending the blood gushing to my head.
Wow, yes. Holding the tricolor, I think, it's once in a life.
It is, and especially for us, I mean, we are so fortunate that Ullas Narayan did what he did, the national record, bringing home, a bronze medal for the team. And we got a chance, for the flag to go up while we were on stage and getting those medals. Man, if there is a high point in my life,
that should be it.
That's that.
And Manoj, now we just spoke about qualifying, but when you finished the race, I don't think it was one of your best races. You had a high and then you had a low. And how did it feel to handle the low after an immediate high?
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you're talking about the event itself, the 24-hour, where I got a chance to represent the country, right?
Yeah.
I did so poorly.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what happened on that one. So this was an event where, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, right?
Yeah.
And you have like 4 months to train. What would
Yeah.
you do, right? If, any runner in my shoes would probably overtrain. I mean, most of them, right?
Yeah.
And I think I did that. Although I felt supremely confident, on the race day, but it was a 9 a.m. start. It was in Taiwan, and it was dry heat, and you had to battle that dry heat for about 4 or 5 hours, right? Anyone, if and we all had our targets, and we all wanted to push. We all wanted to prove that we really deserved that chance that we got to be on the national team, and we wanted to show what we could, and all of that, right? So there's a whole lot of emotion that's there. I started off, I thought I started off all right, but then 4 hours in, I went into the medical tent for getting stretches. Not a good sign. That doesn't happen, usually to me, and it was quite a surprise. So 12 hours into the run, not even 12, in fact, 6, 8 hours into the run with all the heat gone, at 3 o'clock, it started getting really cool and nice and pleasant to run, but I was so spent because, for every lap, we were pouring buckets of water on our head just to keep ourselves cool. By noon, it was like terrible. And, and that was happening. Someone, a mature runner would probably, have said, there will be another day. So we got to kind of slow down on this one. But I went out too fast. In 16 hours, I was like totally done. And there is also this thing about resources within when you're in a team event versus an individual, right? When you have your medical staff, when you have your team captain, all of them, Sunil was there, Sitaram was there, but they were having to divert their attention to someone like me who was slowing everything down.
Interesting.
But should I focus on someone else? And that's when I said, what, I'm going to let you guys off that decision, right? Let me just stop now, right? The best that I can do, I know I can't contribute to the top 3, that's required for the team score to come up there. I know I can't do that. So might as well stay back and, help the rest of them in whatever way I can. So I took an hour or two of nap. I got back, and then I was doing the mathematics, trying to help the team, whenever they came in for a little bit of a stretch, handing the food out. I became crew. But it was
nice.
very, very bad. You know what happened 2 weeks later, right? So I came out of that race, and Aparna was there, and she told me, you never come out of a bad race and then sign up for your next one. You wait till that is done. But no, the nuthead in me, I said, so I came out of the race.
I understand that.
Yeah. Right? I came out of the race and I signed up for NEB 24-hour Delhi run in 2 weeks. That was happening in 2 weeks, which meant I had to come back. I had to recover from the 126 kilometer that I had done and get to the start line for another 24 hours. That was the point where my family really flipped, but anyway, I went there and I did a 176 kilometer, right? And having really, again, pretty bad experience because I hadn't slept well, the previous night, and starting in the evening.
Manoj, I'm going to pause you for a minute here, okay? And I wanted to ask you this. What's it like a week before a 100K race for you? Take us through. Yes, exactly. Take us through. We've trained, or you said 4 months of training, you probably, you've done your math, you've taken your printouts of your, what your week, but 1 week before a 100K race, okay, what is your week like? What's your mindset? What's your nutrition? What's your sleep patterns like? What is it to live a life of Manoj Bhat at Wipro versus father versus runner in that 1 week? Yeah, take us through that craziness.
Crazy. That, I would run as many races, but don't take me through that 1 week before the race, please.
Tell me now.
Right? So the week before the race is like this. First of all, you're paranoid, okay? About, it's happening in COVID now, but imagine that happening, like, so you're very, very careful. You're with sanitizer, very careful about the doorknobs that you touch, because if someone sneezes at a distance and you're like, oh, I mean, today it is normal, but then, you're looking at them and saying, please don't give me those germs. I can't afford that this late in the race, right? So all of that goes, you go through all of that. you're a bundle of nerves. You're a big wreck. You flip very quickly. You lose. You shout at your family for really small things that can upset your routine. A whole lot of that. A whole lot of that. As far as nutrition is concerned, but I've got a little wiser. I know for a fact that you can't sleep the day before the race. So I make sure that a week leading into the race, I get my sleep.
Yes.
I tend to also try to be as positive as I can. Don't give me negative news. Don't talk to me about anything negative. Let me just try and be positive. I even tried positive reinforcements. There are races where I didn't want to cramp. There was my first or second 12-hour race. I actually wrote down I used to write down pieces of, in a book. 15 days before the race, I still have that book with all those pages filled in. I do not want to cramp. I want to finish strong. I do not want to cramp. So I write it 20 times before I go to sleep, 20 times after I wake up.
Wow.
Right. So, I do a lot of these, crazy things before these big races. But I'll tell you what happened, interestingly, in the one that gave me my PB. Okay. This was, and this is to bust the myth that is there, that it is so much in the mind, right? 2 days before the event, I'm supposed to fly out to Chandigarh tomorrow. Today, I'm on my cycle. I've gone to my mom's place. I've had my lunch. I've come back. When I'm coming back home in a road that I've taken, 100 times, I'm going on my cycle. There is a little bit of a stick kind of a thing that they have done. There is some barricading kind of a thing. I didn't see. I fell, and I have a ligament problem that I have from 15 years back. It is a ligament tear which is got operated and all of that. But when I fell, I knew the pain. It was a ligament tear. I could tell that. I got up. I was sitting there and crying. People came, rushed to me. They couldn't see any blood. Why is this fellow crying, right? And I told them, you won't understand, right? I have this event in like 2 days' time. You won't understand. And there's nothing wrong with me. I can limp home. So what is this guy, But that was the feeling. I went limping to the race day the previous day to collect my bib. I met Arun Bharadwaj. He told me, Manoj, don't worry, miracles happen. So regardless of what you do, I'll tell you, if you're strong in the head, regardless of what you do, what you missed your favorite drink, the day before, you missed you forgot your gels, you forgot your GPS, no matter what, right? It can still work. It worked for me. I mean, I'm going
to add the subsection, Shreyas, for this question. If I had to open and see your race kit bag, okay, that you would carry for 100K race, what would I find in there? Just take us through, and also through the magic cape, probably, which is going to take you. Huh? Yes. Yeah, you have the magic cape, right? Yeah, Superman cape. Yeah, not possible without it. So what is there in that race kit?
Yeah, very, very. Deepa, you have some good, interesting questions, I must say. So I've gone all over the place. Okay, from a lot of gels to no gels for 24-hour runs.
Yes, I know that. That's the reason I'm asking you this question. Right? What is inside that bag?
I've gone through all of that, right? But I'm getting to, and at one point even Ullas told me, Manoj, you can't go into a 24-hour race and think you'll fuel on peanuts. I had carried 1 kg fried peanuts with jaggery. Okay, so from there I went to Delhi with gels only. Then to Bangalore, I had 22 gels in 24 hours. That's my personal best. I don't think it's beaten, right? So I've gone all over the place. But what I'm increasingly doing is not carry a kit. In fact, in the last 100K that I did in quarantine, that 1 kilometer up and down, I was thinking of doing that on empty.
Okay.
Yeah, not eating anything at all, just water. I have gone up to about 50 kilometers without eating anything on a 12-hour fast with 2 liters of water. Right? Yeah. So I'm the kinds.
So you're trying to say you've learned your body with time, and that's not something that you would advise anybody, but it's something that you have over the races and over the 14 years of your running journey, you have learned what works for you, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure Shreyas has a different nutrition plan and what works for him.
Exactly. I think you hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah.
it is what works for you. That at that point in life, I mean, if you ask me, if you put the same question to me about, about 5 years back, I would have had a very different answer, because that was working for me then.
Yeah, Manoj, the race that we did together, I'll always come back to that. When you were clocking those miles repeatedly, the first half of the race, I used gels. I used a lot of sugars. Okay, and the second part of the race that I used, the last 12 hours race, I went on fats. Peanut butter, almond butter, ultra butters, because I had to keep going. I had a sleep factor in it. Okay. So, I'm sure that's what I wanted to understand from you, Manoj, and all the ultra runners who are listening to you right now. What is that magic that takes you through that, not just clocking those hours, but staying strong on your feet without bonking? What's that magic potion?
See, I'll tell you that there are two parts to it. One is during what you do during the training, and the other is what you do during your race. And these two things can be slightly different. So what I've been trying to do is, and this was also, in line with, we had a coach who came over from the US, and did a little bit of a camp with him, Anthony, and we're all trying to get to a fat optimized state, which means that on training, you kind of try to see if you can do it on empty, and then as you go on the race day, you're having your carbs to supplement your energy sources. So that way, what happens is the body taps into both these sources of energy. The fat optimized state as well as the carbs to give you a mix of that. That's the ideal state to be in. But and it takes some amount of training to get there. You need to kind of make sure that you're doing all of these different experiments and trying figuring out what's working and what's not. But yeah, I mean, if I were to do a 24-hour race, I would obviously do it on gels, right?
Interesting.
And with a little bit of solid food, maybe just thrown in a bit. Yeah, gels also tend to save time for me when I'm looking for a particular race. If I'm just doing it on just by myself, like the 100K that I did recently, I did it on say 8 slices of bread and peanut butter and 2 portions of curd rice.
Yes.
Okay. Manoj, there's this thing, right? You must have heard about it. You can't get the best of everything. There are 4 pillars to life. You have family, you have career, you have friends, and then you have your passion. Okay. One has to be compromised. What is one thing that you've compromised? And you can be honest about it. And what is one thing that has taken a suffering? I wouldn't believe that if you say that you peaked everything.
No. And that's a very good question. I got this perspective, Shreyas, the exact, maybe you guys read the same book, I don't know. But there was this one lady who told me once the exact same thing. I was in the US in the Bay Area doing some project work and she said that it's like 4 burners, right? That you have, your gas burners.
Yes, 4 burner theory. Yeah,
burner theory. Right.
Yeah. So the 2 things, maybe friends, not so much, but the one that takes the hit is career. The one that takes the hit is family.
Yeah.
I think the family has taken the hit more than I would say. See, I'm not such a nuthead about my career. I do it because I need to do something for a living. Okay. Let my colleagues not hear this part. Just no, but anyway, I mean, some of this brushes off. So I think there is a little bit of synergy as well. But family, what happens is that I used to do these long runs and you're training back-to-back runs. You got to do your 6-hour, 8-hour runs on a Saturday, and then you come back and you got to do your 4-hour run on a Sunday. And then for the rest of the day, you're resting, you're not available. So, when I'm doing this, at one point, my wife is like, you could sense that there was something wrong. And then, when I spoke to her and I confronted her, she said, you're there, but you're not there. Right? So then you start thinking, oh, really? I mean, I thought I was doing everything right. Right. And then you start looking at it from their perspective. And then, then what happens in the learning that I've done over the years is that you got to sign up to a target to what you want to do as a family, right? You got to take them into your goal setting. You want to say, this is important to you. You will do this for this much time, provided, you got to kind of open the communication channels and make sure that, they're signing up for what is coming for the next few months. Right? Don't leave them, just guessing. Right? Let them be a part of the story. And sadly, my family my young kids, my daughter was 6 years, my son was 3. They saw me being, lying on a stretcher and being taken out last year as I was finishing my 24-hour runs. And then, whenever I went for a run after, doctor kept asking me, are you going to be okay? Or are you going to, how are you going to, I could see that, it was playing in her mind, right? It's important to kind of start getting your family into your goal setting. Otherwise it won't happen. You got to have that support, and that support means so much, especially the positivity that I was talking about a week leading into the race. Where does the positivity come from? It just comes from a whole lot of that comes from my family. And if they don't believe in what you're doing, you don't believe in what you're doing. And that's the end of the story. You don't even start the race.
Yeah. And you said, of course, like all of us, you had your failures as well. I'm a person, because of a lot of my failures. Just going back to your Taiwan race, I consider, though I think on team front, I think you did the best thing. Okay. But as a personal goal, I think you failed at it. Okay. What was the key lesson that you learned from your failures? Because I feel failures teach you a lot. And how has that failure improved you as a person and as a human being?
Shreyas,
and as a runner?
Yes, Shreyas. So if I were to pick between success and failure, I think I would pick a failure. There's so much it teaches you that, you sometimes get blindsided with success, and I write a blog, and the reason why I write that is also because for every success, you got to go back and think what you did right for you to succeed that particular race. It's so important to reflect both on success and failure. And that's a little bit of how you got to take both of those in, on an equal measure, correct? And failure is really, it's depressing to say the least. For the first 2 weeks, it's like, it just pulls you down. There's so much, and I was with you, Shreyas, if you remember last year, after about 3-4 years, I was trying to hit a good PB for a marathon. We started out together. I remember, I think I caught up with you after 5K or so, or less than that. And then we were hitting about, good pace till about halfway point. After that, I cramped so badly, on both legs, and, I had to limp to the finish. It pulls you down so much, and you start questioning every little, sense that you had signing up, isn't it? You say, why did I do this? If I had to go through this trauma, is it really worth all of that? But it is running is such a huge metaphor to life, Shreyas, and and then you start thinking, is that what you're made of, right? I mean, is that all that it took to beat you down? What did you learn, right? Okay, this went wrong, fine. So let me just see if I can do it better next time. And you know what? Especially when I'm having a training season now I have a backup race, right?
Nice. Okay.
So if I'm doing a marathon, I keep a backup race, for about, and I failed so miserably in many of my runs. I mean, I'm not a success as much as I'm a failure. 3 weeks after a marathon, I sign up for another one, like Bangalore followed by Chennai, just to be, to be sure, right? But there are no second chances, many times. You got to pick yourself. You got to pick yourself and do what you got to do. And some of these, I've seen in the lockdown, we have some of these virtual, these run streaks that go on, right? Some of them help you build that character, right? When you go on a day when you push through, when you're feeling really low, right? First 2 kilometers, enough, let me go and sleep, right? Or let me just go back home and for breakfast. But then on that day, when you push through and finish that 10 kilometer, right? That builds character for you to take your failures in the same stride as you take your success. And of course, it'll help for every. See, I'm a guy who does a lot of experimentation on myself, right? Every of those 14 years, I picked up this. For this season, I'll say, oh, let me try this whole intermittent fasting thing. Let me try running on empty. That's my current, pet peeve, if you will, right? I pick that up and I toy with that idea. I experiment with myself. Does it work for me? It doesn't. Get it off it, right? Stretching, does it work? I messed up. I dropped it. Foam rolling, does it help? Maybe not so much. Strength training, does it help a bit? These are the things that I pick, and experiment. If it fails, I drop it. I move on to the next thing. There's so many.
Manoj, on that point, I want to ask you a question. Okay, you said learning. We're all about learning, right? So there is this thing about we say, okay, if you are transferring yourself to become an ultra runner, okay, from a 42. Personally, the three of us know that 42 and 50, it's not 8 kilometers, it's 1.5 hours more of running. Okay. And especially if you're running an ultra trail race, we know it's not 8 kilometers, fine. So but you have, and so the typical thing is, oh, you're an ultra runner, then your pace must be really sad. Oh, you run at a 10 pace, oh, you run at a 9 pace. That's the, that's the kind of concept that has been built. You're a slow runner, so you're an ultra runner, fine. But you have proved it all wrong out here, right? You have we have, Manoj, you do a 10K in 39, which is a dream. I don't think I'll ever do that. And you still do a 200-kilometer race, right? And you complete it in incredible time. What is your weekly training plan? Okay, how do you manage between an interval training, or if at all you do an interval training, what is your speed workout, miles, clocking those junk miles? What's that, that exact equation that you have there?
Yeah. So I did the same thing that you did to me just now. I picked the brains of a very competitive ultra runner when I was running a 60K in Texas, overnight, and then got along with this guy. We had a good equation going, so we just kept running. I kept asking questions. He was a 200 miler and a very competitive runner. So I asked him, what he had done. He had signed up for a 60-kilometer race. He had done a 40-kilometer tempo run that morning. Driven 2 hours, taken a nap, signed up for this one, and ran another 60K that evening. His tempo run is a 40K. His intervals go on for 20 kilometers, right? When he, 20 of 1 kilometer intervals. Okay. So as an ultra runner, what happens is, your weekly mileage multiplies, which means that you're doing your speed runs, but you're doing more of those speed runs. You're doing your tempos, which are longer, and you're doing your long runs, which are a little more longer, right? So your average weekly, that's one way of looking at it. So your average weekly mileage goes from, say, 80 kilometers to 140 kilometers, right? So that's how you kind of stretch it, right along to make sure that you have a.
Are you sure you have only 24 hours in a day?
Yeah. Sometimes you got to double it, right? So you got to kind of do the doubles. You do your fast run in the morning, you double it with an evening.
That's what I was looking for. So you run twice a day to get those numbers.
I will tell you, and I have a very, funny kind of a mindset. I don't crib about traffic. I don't crib about surface. I don't crib about where I'm doing it. I don't crib about gear. I don't crib about being hygienic after, at the cost of the people around me. But if there is something that needs to be done, it needs to be done. That's period.
Yeah,
so
awesome.
What he's trying to say is, to get that, if you have to run twice a day to finish your recovery after an interval run, and next day go for a tempo, that's how you do it.
You run to your workplace. You run back from your workplace. You just figure out.
You're optimizing the time, basically.
Yeah, whenever you have the time, right? Whenever you have the time. Yeah. So my last race, I used to work from home, and thankfully I didn't have to commute. But I used to do these lunches, right? Which means run before your lunch, right? So because that was the time that was lean for me work-wise. So I used to go out at 12 o'clock and run. I used to run at noon every day, every single day. And and then of course, I had my 6 o'clock run in the morning as well. So I do 6. I shower. I'm there with my family for the school, dropping this, that, and all that. Finish off a little bit of work. 12 o'clock do your run again. You have a quick shower. You have your lunch. Maybe a quick short nap for about 15 minutes, and then your rest of the day. Right? Repeat.
Nice.
5 days a week. 5 into 20, 100K done.
Mm-hmm.
Simple math.
Manoj, yeah. So you just did the 100K in 11 hours. It's pretty impressive, hey? For a self-supported run, and it was not an official event. It's a time-consuming thing. And what was the drive? What was the drive behind that humongous effort? It is not even official. You could have saved it for an official record.
No. So again, so it started out with just some madness, right? So I was doing this 50 kilometers. I thought might as well try 100 because I felt I was in shape. But more importantly, I wanted to send a message out, and it started gathering a little bit of momentum, as far as some publicity is concerned. People started knowing that there is something like this happening. And then, it was the art of possible, really, right? I'd seen runners who are kind of stuck inside their homes, not using it as an excuse to not come out and do what they really love doing. Sometimes, justified, sometimes not, sometimes just mentals, sometimes not. But whatever it is, right? I just wanted to, send a message out there saying, hey, look what, I mean, running is a simple sport, right? It can be done just one step in front of the other. You don't need any fancy equipment to do this, right? Let's just get out of where we are. I mean, if you get a 500-meter, long stretch of road that you think is empty, it's close to your place that is not COVID, so be it, right? So that was it. That was pretty much, the whole thought process behind that. I even wanted to say, don't eat. I started out thinking I'll do it on empty, but then I said, okay, let's not be, go overboard on this one. And so I ate a bit, but that's the point. The point is, don't get in boundaries in your mind, right? Don't say, if I don't run in the morning, I can't run because there's too much traffic. If you don't have a particular place, you can't run. You're in a gym, you can't run. You don't have your crowd, your group, you can't run. No, you can, right? It is locked down. You can. It is, you have 1 kilometer to do it, and you can. It's not an event. You can. I wanted to stress the you cans on that one. Really, I mean, if there is one reason, I'll pick that. And that's for everyone.
You're in a leadership, position in your company, in your organization, and high responsibilities. And has ultra running led to any kind of leadership lessons that you've been able to, implement in your workspace?
It's inseparable. It's like two sides of a coin, right? There's absolutely no, taking one thing from the other. Okay. The kind of, all that we spoke about right now, you put it in a corporate context. Okay. Each one of them is what probably separates you from the rest. On a sales, I'm in pre-sales, so which means I support a lot of sales activities. The drive to just keep going after you think you have the deal is completely gone, right? That is really what, we learned it in running all the time, isn't it? I mean, you think you can't go anymore, and that, there is another hour to go, and you can pick your feet up and do it. That, I will tell you, that last mile is really what, makes or breaks deals, right? A whole lot of that. And then, of course, there's a lot of energy that you take to your, there's a lot of discipline that you take, yes, your engagements. There's a, and then there's this whole template, right, of picking the right things, the things that best practices that are working for you, drop the ones that are not. You apply it in corporate, and you have a successful career, and you can reflect.
Very interesting.
That. Yeah, almost all of it. It resonates so well. The in it for a long run. I think Stan Chart used it for the tagline. It makes so much sense. Makes so much sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have.
But just a minute on that. Sometimes it doesn't. It means that you got to be a little, picky, right? You got to, on a Friday night, you can't take a 11. You can't go on till 11 p.m. because you got to wake up at 4 a.m. Right? And I'm not the one who skims on sleep. I take a half day off, if I'm sure I want to do that, just so I can sleep. I slept at 6:30, just before the 100K run. I went to sleep at 6:30 in the evening.
Wow, nice. So you're trying to say that the training and the preparation is extremely important, for race day results, rather than just waking up and going to it. So the process that you put in is extremely important, yeah. Rather than glorifying, sleepless and go and do it. So there's no sacrificing on health and sleep and all that.
I will tell you that there's no shortcut, right? For everyone who's out there who's thinking they can do it, they can do it. But be very, very careful about how you go about doing it, right? Don't burn at both ends. That's really not worth it. Don't mess up with your other burners, right? So much so. Yeah. I think the most important thing is whether you can balance it. If you can balance it, you can sustain it. If you can sustain it, you can take on higher and higher goals. But be very careful when you set your time frame, the time frame is not in X number of months, X number of years, right? Have that mindset. It is really, long distance running is long, not just for the distance, but for the time frame. It is long. Think about it as something that you would like doing for 10 years, right? It is not a check in the box. It is not a bucket list. It is something that you want to do for perhaps the rest of your life.
That's one of the best things I've heard from a runner, Manoj, in a long time.
So you're here for the long haul. That's what our talk is about today also, Shreyas. Shreyas,
Yeah.
Manoj, we've all been into running for a decade now, almost a decade, okay? Not yet, I'm yet to get a decade there, okay? But we do see that India has been bitten by this running bug, okay? Everyone wants to run, right? And at some point, we all have, Shreyas is a coach, Manoj has been a coach, and so am I. So we have encountered people who want to run, who say, what do you want to do? I want to run a marathon. What's the distance? We still don't know. Okay. Okay. And yeah, I want to run. But now I also see a bigger running bug of I want to do ultra running. I want to run big races. Okay. Manoj, what advice would you give for a new runner to transit from a 42.2 to a 50 and beyond? What's a good time frame according to you? Or what are the body signals that and training plans or longevity that the runner should do a reality check before signing up for something longer and bigger?
Right. So first of all, I would say, um, start getting, well, I say speed, it really doesn't matter, but it's important to kind of get to a place where you're comfortable, doing a marathon, right? When I say comfortable, you could be, and that could be different time for different people, right? It could be 4 hours, 5 hours, whatever it is, but start getting consistent, with your marathon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then give yourself 6 months to a year, as you slowly start scaling up. A couple of things that I learned back in 2008. We had this Madhu Avasarala. Some of the old timers will remember. He was come down from the US, and then he was the race director for the first Bangalore Ultra in 2008 2007. So his advice: time spent on feet is very important, right? Make sure that you spend that time on your feet, right? More than so much, not so much about distance or speed or anything, but just the amount of time that you spend on your feet should be an indicator as to where you want to go. So if you're training for a 50K, for example, make sure that you're spending those 5 hours on your feet. You may not finish the race in 5 hours. I'm saying you may take even 8 hours to finish it, but 5 hours on your feet is good amount of training for you to start getting there. That is one. Two is to do a little bit of back-to-back runs, right? So you do a 30K on one day and go back and do a 40K the next day, right? That's really training on tired legs, right? So you start getting a sense of how it is to really still continue running when you think you're completely spent. That will happen in any kind of an ultra. You will go through your ups and downs. A lot of those will come and go. When you go down to that pain cave, as they call it these days, right? Can you still continue to push through that? That resilience will build with back-to-back runs.
So if you have to summarize, it's somebody who's been consistently doing 42.2 with a consistent time, can be one checkpoint. The other checkpoint is, can you be on the feet for 5 hours and above consistently? Okay. And I think, and also the third one is, can you sustain back-to-back running? Is that right?
Yes.
That's a good time to transition.
That's a good one. Yeah. And give yourself times, 6 months, keep a slightly broader time frame. Don't get impatient with yourself. Allow your body to get used to everything.
Yeah. As we are coming close to time. Manoj, I have two questions for you. Okay. First thing is, do we see a coach, Manoj? Second thing is, you articulate so well. I really love your blogs, and I would like to really see you write a lot more, because in a world, there's information available everywhere. But the kind of stuff that you write, it really hits the heart. I really mean it. The kind of philosophy you bring it, you make it very human. All right. Do we see Manoj Bhat writing a lot more? And second thing is, do we see a full-time coach in Manoj Bhat at some point of time?
One thing life has taught me is never say no. Okay. So maybe you won't see both at this point. I don't see me either becoming an, writing a book or becoming a full-time coach. But I would, I really love giving advice if you ask. So I think I'll be a mentor to runners, but maybe not a full-time coach. I find it very hard to impose what I think is right for myself on someone else. I would rather let them kind of figure out what's right for them. I mean, at least that's my philosophy right now, that you need yourself more than a coach, right? So, so go get that first, right? And then you will not need a coach, perhaps, So I'm a little bit of that philosophy, so I won't get to coaching, but I love writing, right? And I love writing these, and every time, the reason why I find my blog perhaps refreshing is because I try to understand what's going through my head at that point in my life, right? What is this, this whole kida that's going on in my head, right? So that whole thing that you saw about the 10K, about perspectives and performance, right? That's what is troubling with my work life right now. If you kind of got the sense, I wrote about ups and downs in life, and I wrote about an ultra, which is all about ups and downs. But then, I'd spent time with two friends who were going through crazy amount of shit in their lives at that point. And ups and downs in life for me was that. I mean, it was not so much about the run. You perhaps thought it was about the run when but there are layers in my writing, which I really think is important to bring into. And I like the fact that running helps you reflect on these things, and writing helps you reflect back on running to get those out. When I think back about my run, and want to find that one single thread, the storyline that I'm going to weave the blog around, it's really kind of hard sometimes, but it helps you reflect on the run, right? You're doing that run for 3 days to find, was it a failure really? I mean, I keep asking this question, right, to myself. Was it a failure? I mean, the thing that you did with Shreyas for the first half, do you really say that it's a failure? If I thought it was a failure, then I write it as a failure. If I thought it was not, I don't, right? So my writing is a little transparent, it is, and maybe, I just want to kind of bear it all there, right? So my my writing is a kind of a reflection of my running, and the other way around. Sometimes I wonder whether I write because I want to run, or whether I run because I want to run, but I never figure that out. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, this is my favorite question, Manoj, that I ask everyone. I mean, especially you, because I think you're probably the only person that I know who's been running for 15 years, rather one of the very few people. If there is one thing that a lot of runners are not doing, but you think they should do, what is it? And finally, where can people find you on social media? Where are you more active?
What is the one thing that runners do that they're not doing?
Should do, but they're not doing.
Not doing. Oh God.
I think I think runners are building a lot of boundaries. I think you got to break free. I think you got to think, and I do these motivational talks. It is mind over muscle, right? And it is really mind over muscle. I think most of us runners, and reflecting back from 14 years, I'm telling you this, that most of us, even I started out, all of us did that, started out with jacketing tight, with straight jacketing ourselves into a particular, I'm a slow runner, I'm a long runner, I am, I'm so and so, I can run with a group, I cannot run here, I'm not a road runner. I think it's important to kind of break boundaries,
Very interesting. Yeah.
Right? Break that, whatever that boundary is for you, break it, go beyond. It is possible, right? I think that's key. I think most runners, and with most walks of our lives, brilliant. Someone said this after our first ultra, okay, and they said, imagine if everyone in the country did what you guys did yesterday. We are having a beer at Koshi's after we had finished our ultra. They said yesterday there were these, whatever, 120, 140 of you who pushed boundaries beyond what you thought was possible. Imagine everyone in the country doing this in whatever they're doing in life. Where will that take us? Right?
Amazing.
I think the boundaries are there, Shreyas.
And where do we find you, Manoj? On Instagram, Facebook, Twitter? Where are you more active?
Facebook, Manoj Bhat. On Insta, I'm at Ultra Bhat, and I would really request you to follow me.
Sure.
Just so it inspires me to kind of share more and more of what I do. If you really think it was worth your time, so just follow me. It's Ultra Bhat is the handle. Ultra is what I do. Bhat is my surname.
All right, Manoj. Great having you, Manoj, here, and great having you, Deepa, and for the kind of questions that you asked from the ultra running perspective. Manoj, one of the best interviews that I've asked, had the privilege to ask a few questions here, which was really interesting, especially about the mind and all of that, which is fascinating because mind is one thing that we all find it difficult to understand, right? So thank you so much for us to speaking about the mind and many other aspects and bringing in a very, very balanced perspective. Because we all thought, ultra runners are crazy. But when I heard you out, no, you're a very balanced person. You're a very sane person. And when I look at you, very relaxed. So thank you very much for being you. I think you're a very important person to the running community for the kind of stuff that you've done. And you've been inspiring a lot of people in your own ways. Thanks again. I hope
Thanks, Shreyas.
everyone...
Thanks for having the two Bhats here. It is it's nice to meet runners when we are not sweaty or not at the finish line with the medal or with race jitters. It is so nice. This is very refreshing. Thank you so much. And
Shreyas and Deepa, I mean, just my last words. Shreyas, same to you as well. You're doing some amazing stuff, man. Thanks so much. Deepa, you too. I mean, continue to inspire. With all of those runs that you are doing as well. It's really quite. Thank you for having me here. I mean, thanks so much. It was a great conversation.
Yes. Thank you, Bangalore runners.